Hello dear friends, the topic of our video today is ratio of jaws. This is a question that causes a lot of controversy, and even to the point the same patient from the point of view of different dental schools will be treated differently, and the ratio of his jaws is fixed differently. Also, patients very often come to you with the purpose they cannot find the right jaw ratio. Sometimes doctors send them and say that you need to find some kind of magical central ratio or some other jaw position. More often, it's even worse when patients themselves tell you what ratio of jaws need to be done for them. And in fact, to create a new video, I was encouraged by the fact that some doctors turned to me and said that after registering with jig or using the coarse appliance, the patient's jaw moved forward and they consider this ratio to be the most optimal, as you can see on this photo. The patient's jaw moved forward, he has a teeth occlusal in the distal area, here his teeth don't close. The patient is comfortable in this ratio and the doctor believes that this is that kind of ratio, the right position. I would like to warn you, because this is fundamentally wrong. This is a position that the jaw has chosen, not you, and here you need to think about it. It's good if it is a distal bite and the jaw moved forward, you seem to be happy and everything seems to be good and comfortable, but if it is the third class, the jaw was forward and it moved forward even more, what to do then? Register in that position or perform orthodontic surgery? You need to think about it before cutting the patient up. And if it is a toothless jaw, what kind of patients, what they often do? They move the lower jaw forward, and again this jaw has taken some kind of forward position. Do we take it as a basis? You know, there are methods that we ask the patient to swallow saliva, move his tongue back. It all comes down to the jaw positioning, nevertheless to its original position. Therefore, I summarize all these questions that come to me in the form of doctors' requests, courses, discussions of the patient clinical cases, so that I decided to make such a short video, which I hope will help you to understand this topic. Maybe 3-5 minutes it is not enough to address the issue, but it will give you food for thought and for further work and understanding of this problem. The problem itself appeared a long time ago. The fact is that dentists have been engaged in prosthetics for more than 100 years. Even, as you know, millions of years ago in Egypt they tried to make something out of gold threads, etc. But such a vivid understanding of the issue of prosthetics appeared already at the beginning of the 20th century, and one of the prominent figures in this era is Alfred Gizi. His work, in fact, is still relevant to this day, and therefore I always mention this author. So why did this problem appear? The fact is that if a patient has teeth, their models can somehow be compared and mounted on a simple gypsum occluder in which you can carry out your work. But if it is impossible to compare the models, so that the question about central relation appeared in all its glory. When there are no teeth, you need to do some work, but the patient has no teeth. How should we compare the models? Based on what? What landmarks do we need to have? Again, even we have teeth, but we have a few teeth, as in this case, what is called a non-fixed bite. Focusing only on these teeth, what can you get? You may receive the error that actually had led the patient to you. Therefore, we need to find that specific ratio of the jaws that will allow us to carry out the correct prosthetics in the future, or orthodontic treatment, diagnostic and treatment planning, and so on and so forth. That is, there are quite a lot of indications for the CR that we need in our work, and today we will try to deal with them too. Since childhood I was taught, although maybe I didn't study well at school, but one of the teachers taught me the following: not to learn definitions. I really like this idea, but he said, Sasha, you must create your own definitions. It is necessary to highlight the most important in this definition, and then you can make this term by yourself. What is the most important thing about central relation? For the CR, the most important is an understanding of its reproducibility, so that its ratio must be reproduced every time. For example, you register a new ratio and give this ratio to a dental technician. He does work in this ratio, makes some kind of modulus relation, and next time you give him a different ratio of jaws. That is, he needs to redo all these ceramics in you. In this matter, of course, we must have some kind of stable position in which we will work. It is very important to understand that CR itself is the jaws of the patient can be in central relation position, but this is a special position that is sought by the doctor and is sought for medical purposes. I mean, determination of the CR is not undertaken just for nothing. Next, the most important aspect that you need to recognize and understanding this issue will be your key to understanding the central relation. Central relation is independent of occlusion. Once again, central relation does not depend in any way on the closing of the teeth. All that is higher, all that in the joint area is the central relation. Everything that is involved in occlusion, contacts, central occlusion, ICP, intercuspidation is a completely different issue. Third moment. When registering, it remains within 15 to 20 millimeters during opening. This is the initial opening. The fact is that there is a temporomandibular ligament that stretches and the jaw moves forward. Therefore, wide opening of the mouth leads to the front jaw position. A very relevant moment in determining central relation. Muscles should be relaxed. The activities should be minimal. For example, during the registration of the CR, you relaxed all the muscles, and at one moment you ask the patient what to do. Close the mouth. Can you imagine? You were relaxing the every patient muscle and ask him to close his mouth. What's happening? Masseter muscles, one of the strongest muscles, the medial, pterygoid, and temporal muscles become tense. Three of the strongest muscles become tense, and the patient begins to close his mouth. Therefore, the logic of determining the central relation and further steps should be understood by the doctor, and the registration itself will be carried out more accurately. And if we are talking about CR, then we are talking about the structures of a healthy joint, because if the internal structures of TMG are damaged, there is no need to talk about CR. In that case, some kind of other ratios are defined. So, I think that we figure out the term of the central relation. Summing up, this is a static position that is registered for medical purposes, is registered with minimal muscle activities, which is reproducible and stable, and which is determined by the structures of a healthy joint. Why is it central? Again, the term has been criticized many times because the central one is relative to what? The central line of the joint? Good question. Central relation in the right or left joint, or both? One can philosophize on this issue for a sufficiently long time, but now we are not interested in theory. Now we are interested in the practical significance of this term. This was our theoretical part, the basis for us to understand each other, because it is very important to understand each other terminologically, what we are talking about. In the next part, we will discuss why is the central relation at variance with the central occlusion, that is, why does the closure of the teeth still differ from the starting position. Secondly, we will analyze the indications for the work in the CR and also the impact of joint structures on this CR. And a very important aspect that I would like to convey to you is the other ratio of the jaws. There are not only the CR but also reference positions, Ranger position, therapeutic position, and many other types of jaws ratio that exist in nature. Therefore, in order for you to work with total prosthetics confidently and understand where you are going to understand which reference plane and which reference point you should use, listen to our next videos, and if you have any questions about this term, ask. Well, see you next time.